What is the single most important moral issue to God? We actually know. Because Jesus was asked not once, but twice this very question. Now, the way it was asked Jesus is, which is the greatest commandment? Given that there were 613 commandments in the Old Testament, of course 10 big ones, and 603 applications and clarifications, it's a tough question. But here's where it gets interesting. Both times Jesus was asked the question, we receive an identical answer. The second time, Mark 12, towards the end of Jesus' ministry, in fact, this is last week, a lawyer's trying to trap him with this difficult question. And Jesus said, well, the most important commandment is this. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one. The Lord is one, and you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your mind, and with all your strength. And then Jesus adds a second commandment. The second is this, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. There is no commandment greater than these, said Jesus. So, love God, love people. Love God, love people. Clear enough, right? Well, not so fast. About a year and a half earlier, another lawyer, a professional in the Mosaic law, saunters up to Jesus and asks him the same question, which is the greatest command? This time, instead of answering, Jesus lets him answer and says, well, you're a hotshot lawyer. What do you think? You know what the guy said? Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and to love your neighbor as yourself. He gave the identical answer. So maybe it's not that difficult to discern the priorities of God. In fact, this first commandment to love God, the Jews called it the Shema. Because that's the Hebrew word for hear or listen. Listen, O Israel. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Hear, O Israel, the Lord is your God, and the Lord is one. And you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and strength. In other words, with all you got, you love the Lord. A heart is your center of emotions or feelings. Your soul is your center of energy or will. And your strength is the center of your, not just physical, but also financial strength and relational capital. So with everything you are, you love the Lord. That was so important to the Jews that the Shema is recorded in every synagogue service. You'll hear it. The Shema is also written on little scrolls and put inside the phylacteries that the rabbis put on their foreheads and on their left arms. It is so important to the Jews that the Shema is written on the little scrolls and put in the mezuzahs that are hung at an angle on Jewish doorposts. It is everywhere because it is everything. The Shema, or Deuteronomy 6, 4 through 6, is the John 3:16 of the Old Testament. But here's where it gets tricky. If I'm to love God, how do I do that? Because love in the Bible is not an emotion. It's not how you feel. It's not even what you say. It is what you do in practical, actionable items to improve someone else's life. How am I going to do that for God? Like, I can't run up to heaven and give him a hug. I can't do his chores. I can't give him a loan. I can't give him a gift that he doesn't already have. How am I going to love God? And if you're a parent, you already know. The greatest gift you can give to any father is to love his children. The lawyer figured it out. Jesus figured it out. To love your neighbor as yourself. And when the lawyer gave this answer, Jesus said, bravo, great answer. But the lawyer, doing what lawyers do, trying to find a loophole, said, yeah, but who is my neighbor? And he uses a particular word that is pretty narrow for neighbor. There was a broader word that would encompass more people. And you would think that Jesus said, no, don't limit the neighbors, love everybody. He doesn't. He actually takes the lawyer's word and turns it on its head. Because the lawyer's saying, who is so near me, who is so like me that I am bound by God to love. And Jesus said, let me tell you a story. Once upon a time, there was a man who went from Jerusalem down to Jericho. And he got robbed, and a lot of people did on that desert highway. And a priest came by and didn't help him. A Levite came by and ignored him. A Samaritan came by. We call him the Good Samaritan, which is an oxymoron, you understand. For the Jews, there were no good Samaritans. But he put him on his donkey, he took him to an inn, and he paid for his medical treatment. He practically loved the man. And at the end of the parable, Jesus asked a question. Who was neighborly? That's not the question the lawyer asked. The lawyer asked, who is my neighbor? And Jesus turns it around on him and says, who was neighborly? You see, God, in asking whether you are fulfilling the greatest commandment, is not going to ask, who's it imperative for you to love? No, God is going to ask, who are you? Are you loving? Not who is your neighbor, but who is neighborly. The other interesting thing is, Jesus takes that definition, the person who is close enough to me. Jesus says, all right, I'm going to give you that. Like, the only people you have to love are in an 18-inch circle around you. That's the only people you have to love. But you have to take the circle everywhere you go. And that is the most important moral issue for God.